Imagine having your own AI-powered knowledge base that lives on your computer, and when you search it, it is searching through your documents, your PDFs, your scripts, your notes. Well, my name is Mike Murphy, and in this video, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of RAG, which does exactly that. I am going to walk you through the exact steps that I used to build my very first RAG, which mines my old ChatGPT history for gold nuggets. So just think about all of those amazing brainstorm sessions that you've had with ChatGPT or Claude, all of the brilliant ideas that you've come up with that you never did anything about, but you know they're somewhere in your chat history. Now the process of building a local RAG system like what I'm going to show you today, it's definitely on the technical side, but it is not impossible. I am not a professional coder or developer, so I am learning things as I go. So if I can do it, you can do it too. And this really only took me a few hours on the weekend to make. RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Maybe you're looking for that vector logo file that you can never find, or your brand's hex colors. You know you have a style guide somewhere. Or how about your business's refund policy? What the heck is on it and where do we keep that again? When you build a RAG, you are going to feed it with your own data or the information that you want made available in that RAG. Then, whenever you run a search or a query, it's just looking through all the information that you gave it, and it's going to use AI to generate smart responses. Here is the stripped down version of how to build a RAG. Chunking, then embedding, then storing, that's the database, then querying or asking questions, then answers, the output. Chunking. This is the process of taking one large document, such as my ChatGPT history, and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces that makes it easier and faster for the AI to process. Next is embeddings. This takes the bite-sized chunks and converts them into vectors or numbers, so the AI can actually understand the meaning of all of that chunk data. Storing the embeddings in a vector database. This is kind of the magic of a RAG system because your data is permanently stored in this database so you can access it anytime you want without having to attach a file every time you want to interact with your data. You want to make sure that everything is working, so you'll submit queries or questions to the database. Maybe you ask it to find all After Effects tutorial ideas. So it's going to go up in your database, look for vectors or numbers that match After Effects and tutorials, and say, here's everything I found. Now that is great. The vector database is doing its job, but the results that you get are in more of a raw format. They're not going to be that useful for you. So where the real magic happens is when you close the loop of your RAG and connect the database with an LLM model. You submit a query or question, it goes up to the database to retrieve, this is the retrieval, the embeddings. Now when it gets the embeddings, before it sends it to the LLM, it basically looks at the prompt, then it looks at information that it has in the database and kind of spins up a little magic to add some context to the answer. This is the augmentation part. Now, instead of the vector database just handing you that raw data, it is going to send everything through an LLM, or a large language model, where the AI can then process everything, use its big brains, and generate, the last step, the smart answer that you were hoping for. So now you know the basics of RAG. When you hear the term RAG, just think you're taking your data, you're storing it in this special database, and you're using a smart AI LLM model to interact with your data. That's it. So now I'm going to show you exactly how I built the AI goldmine. This is my prototype RAG system to test this concept of taking my old AI chat history. So from ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, etc., the AI is the pickaxe. It is digging through old AI chat conversations looking for nuggets of gold that I can then turn into tutorials, courses, digital products, podcasts, etc., etc. I first just gathered 2 conversations. These were really long conversations. I just copied from ChatGPT and I pasted into a text document, just using the basic text edit on a Mac, and I save them as conversation and conversation2.txt files. Prerequisites, things that are required on your computer in order to build this RAG system. Now I am on a Mac, but you can also do this on a Windows machine. First is Python 3.8. You can tell if Python is installed on your Mac. If you open up a terminal window, type in Python 3 space dash dash version, tap return. You should see the Python version number. If you don't have Python installed, you can just go to python.org and download it for free. Next is Ollama. So we can run the LLM locally on your machine, which means you can keep your data private and you can also use it without an internet connection. So think about being in an airplane, you can use your RAG system. Ollama is awesome and it is free. You can get it by going to ollama.com. Now if I go back to the prerequisites, you'll see the required models, nomic-embed-text and GPT. So we'll get that on Ollama. If I click on models, for the LLM, I'm using this GPT OSS. This is OpenAI's open source model, the same company that brings ChatGPT, but they have an open weight model. Then if I click on embedding, I'm using this first one here, nomic-embed-text, to take the text chunks and turn them into vectors. And if you want to test and make sure that Ollama is running on your machine, you can type in the text prompt localhost :11434. If I tap return, it's showing me that Ollama is running. Then I created the project folder or directory that I called AI Goldmine, and this holds all of the files used in this project. I used Visual Studio Code or VS Code as the code editor along with Terminal to work with the project files. And VS Code is free and open source. So in VS Code, you just open up your project directory or the folder. So go to the File menu, open folder, navigate on your hard drive to your project folder, click open. When you twirl open the folder, you will see all of its contents in the sidebar of VS Code. And when I started this project, the only two things that I had in there were the two text files. These are the conversations from my ChatGPT history that I'm using as the demos. All of these other .py files, that stands for Python. These are just text files, and I created this as I was actually building out the project. You create those in VS Code by going to File, New Text File. You just save them as the name. You just want to make sure they end in the .py file. But currently these are all empty, as I'm going to show you how to actually run these files. From here on, I'm just going to follow this cheat sheet that I created for myself to document all of the steps that I took to build this AI Goldmine RAG system. The quick run through, so the pre-game stage. First, we set up the project directory or folder. We've already done that. Then we open up Terminal and we navigate into that project folder. And we need to set up a Python virtual environment. Then we are going to install the Python requests library. Then we go on to the chunking. I'm going to take one of those ChatGPT conversations as the example, and we're going to chunk it up into smaller pieces. This is just a Python script. I'm just going to copy and paste this into that blank .py file in VS Code. Then we're going to go on to the embedding stage. So we take those chunks and we turn them into vectors or numbers. Then we're going to run another Python script to search the new vectors we just created in the embedding step to make sure they return relevant results. And we'll just use a sample query of tutorial idea. Then we install the ChromaDB vector database that is going to store all the documents that you feed your RAG system. And finally, we close the loop of our RAG and connect everything to the LLM model. Let's build this RAG. We've already created the project folder. Now we need to navigate into it either using the Mac terminal or the VS Code terminal. It doesn't matter. If you're new to terminal, a good trick or a tip if you want to just navigate into a project folder really easily, just right click on the folder, go to services, choose new terminal at folder. That is going to open up a terminal window and you'll see now you are in the project folder. And now we need to set up a Python virtual environment. And the reason we do this, if you mess anything up, it's only going to mess things up in that virtual environment. It's not going to touch anything else on your machine. So for that, I'm just going to put in this first code, tap return, and now we need to activate it. So I'm going to select this, I'm just going to copy it, Command C, open up terminal again, I'm going to paste it, I'll tap return. You can see that little parentheses, that indicates I am now in the virtual environment. Now we just need to install the Python requests. So I'll paste it in, tap return, good to go. First step in the AI process is chunking. That is the process of taking a bigger document and breaking it into smaller pieces, which is easier for the AI to process. I'm going to select all of the code in this Python script, copy it to my clipboard, Command-C. Now I know for my cheat sheet, this has to go into the chunktest.py file. So now I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code or VS Code, locate that chunk test file. I'm just going to click and paste it in. Now, in VS Code, whenever you see a little white circle, that means that that file is not saved yet. So you want to make sure you save it. Otherwise, when you run it, it's not going to actually work. To run the script, make sure you're in the project folder. I'm going to run this little command. I'll just paste it in, tap return. In the blink of an eye, it just split that entire text document into 358 chunks. How cool is that? Now, instead of seeing big blocks of text, it's all broken down into the chunks. Now it's on to embedding. We're going to convert those text chunks into numerical vectors. So I'm just going to copy the code for the script, Command-C. I'm looking for the embedding test file in VS Code. I'll select it, paste in the code, make sure I save it so it writes to the file. Now it's time to run that script. So I'm just going to type in that little command into terminal, tap return. Also lickety split. That embedding script just took the 358 chunks and converted them into 768 vectors. Pretty cool. Okay, now we're going to search the vectors to make sure that they return a meaningful response. So I'm going to select this big block of code here, Command-C to my clipboard, and it's going in the search test.py file. So I'll go to VS Code, locate the search file, paste it in, save it to the file. To run the search, I'm just going to put in this little snippet here, tap return, and the search worked. The sample query was tutorial idea, and it went through the vectors to find anything that might pull or extract things out related to tutorial ideas. And now it's time to install ChromaDB, which is a vector database. So first, we're going to install it with this little snippet, Command-C to copy it, open up terminal. I'm just going to run the command, tap return. ChromaDB is being installed. Now I'm going to copy the code and put it in the ChromaDB test.py file in VS Code. A lot of code here. Command-C, go to VS Code, locate the ChromaDB test file, paste it, save it. To run the script, copy the snippet of code, paste it in terminal, tap return. Everything's working. You should see all of the embeddings here. We had like 700 something embeddings, so everything is working as expected. So it's taking all of those embeddings and making a record in the database, just like you would in something like Google Sheets or Excel. And now it's time to close our RAG loop. We're going to connect the ChromaDB search results to Ollama, which is the local large language model, so we can get intelligent responses when we run a search query. Okay, so you know the drill. We're going to copy the code to close the RAG loop. Command-C to copy, and we are going to be looking for the complete rag.py file. So we'll go to VS Code, locate complete rag, paste it in, file, save. And now we run the complete rag Python script in terminal. I'm just going to paste it in, tap return. Well, we look at that. We just built a complete working rag system. How cool is that? In the script, there were some sample text prompts, which we can see here. What business ideas did I discuss? Didn't really find anything in that one text document. What tutorial content? Well, it did find a tutorial content. It gave me a title. It's giving me a complete outline. Very cool. The last question of the prompt, what are my thoughts on monetization? You can see here, it's giving me a whole bunch of things, saying it actually had a solid vision. Our RAG system is working, which is awesome, but it's in very primitive form right now. It's not something you would want to use on a regular basis. For example, if I want to enter in another text prompt, well, I need to go into VS Code and I need to change the questions. I need to save the script, then run it again, and it's going to run it. Some next steps for your RAG system. Adding the ability to upload documents easier. Adding memory, so when you're chatting with your documents, it's going to remember the conversations. Creating a web interface, so a front end, so instead of having to go through VS Code or Terminal, you can have a nice little chat interface to interact with your documents. And that is your introduction and how to build a RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. I have included all of the project files that I used to build the AI Goldmine RAG system. Just look in the description box of this video. There is a Dropbox link. If you just click that link on your computer, it's going to automatically download the project files to your computer. And my name is Mike Murphy, your RAG handyman. Cheers.